Hello learners and welcome to a Natural Sciences lesson. So today we're going to be dealing with compounds. But first, did you know that compounds are the reason we have the food that we eat? So in this lesson, we're going to be dealing with compounds to explore what compounds are and also how to name them. But then before we get to that, we need to set our goals and target for this lesson. So what I need us to be able to do by the end of this lesson is the following. Number one, I want us to be able to mention the important information about elements on the periodic table. We also need to be able to explain the vertical columns and horizontal rows of the periodic table, show understanding of the commonalities between elements in the same group of the periodic table, and also write the names of the compounds, explain the differences between compounds and elements, and then lastly, we need to be able to explain the information provided by a formula of a compound. Now, in order for us to be able to achieve these goals, we need to take our main idea and categorize it into small concepts that we can be able to achieve. So our main idea is the compound, and within that, we're going to be looking at the periodic table, and within the periodic table, we're going to be looking at the arrangements of the elements in the periodic table. Then we're also going to be looking at the pure substances, being the compounds and elements. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at how to name the compounds that you're going to be dealing with and other compounds that we are familiar with. So to start, so things that you should already know about this lesson are as follows. Number one, you should already know that matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Number two, you should already know that matter is made up of elements and compounds. So everything that we are seeing around us is made up of elements and compounds. Remember that those elements and compounds are made up of atoms, and those atoms are always in constant motion. Thirdly, a periodic table is arranged according to the increase in atomic number of elements. So the numbers that we see on the periodic table, so you have a block that has the element, and then the number that we see there at the top, that is our atomic number. So the elements in the periodic table are arranged according to the increase in that number. Number four, an element is a pure substance that consists of only one type of atom. And this type of atom cannot be broken down into other substances even if we are using chemicals. So even if by chemical means we cannot be able to break this element into other substances. And then lastly, compounds are pure substances made of two or more different elements that bond in a fixed ratio. So elements are made up of only one type of atom, whereas compounds are made up of two or more different elements that bond in a fixed ratio. So our first question is, what happens to the atomic number as you move from left to right in the periodic table of elements? So we know that our periodic table is arranged in increasing atomic number. So that means as you are moving from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, the atomic number is increasing. So what happens to the atomic number? It is increasing. So it is always increasing from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. Now, second question. Each horizontal row in the periodic table is called a something, whereas the vertical row is called a something. So we know that a periodic table is arranged in increasing atomic number as you're moving from left to right, and then those particular elements in the periodic table are arranged in similar characteristics, which are called groups. So groups are in the vertical column, whereas the periods are arranged horizontally. So the second question is, each horizontal row in the periodic table is called a period, whereas the vertical row is called a group. So our periodic table, these are going to be groups vertically, and then as you're moving across, those are going to be our periods. Now, moving on to our next question. Where do you find the metals and nonmetals in the periodic table? Again, picturing the periodic table arranged in periods horizontally and then groups vertically. So we know that on the left-hand side, we find all the metals, and then on the right-hand side, we find all the nonmetals. Then in between, the region between the metals and the nonmetals, that's where we find our metalloids or semi-metals. So where do we find our metals? Our metals, we find them on the left-hand side. The left-hand side of the periodic table, which then means our nonmetals are found on the right-hand side. Now, question 4, give the name and symbol of any two examples of metals and nonmetals and nonmetal elements. So again, picturing a periodic table, we know that our metals are found on the left-hand side, nonmetals towards the right-hand side, and then in between we have the metalloids or the semi-metals. Then we can pick any metal from the right-hand side, and whatever metal that we are picking, we need to write its name and also write its symbol. Then same thing happens with the nonmetals. We need to write that nonmetal's name and the symbol of that nonmetal. So I'm going to start with iron. And then the second one is going to be, let's choose lithium. Now, iron is found in the transition elements. It's that group between group 3 and group 12. You're going to learn more about the transition elements. So the symbol for iron is going to be F, a capital letter F and small letter E. Whereas lithium is going to be capital letter L and small letter I. Now, with regards to the nonmetals, we can pick any two again. So I'm going to start by choosing O2 as my nonmetal, and then, name. So it's going to be oxygen. And then I'm going to choose, let's choose phosphorus. So the symbol for oxygen is O, and for phosphorus is P. However, we need to always remember that oxygen is a diatomic molecule. Now, there is a reason why oxygen is written as O2. Remember that oxygen is part of the diatomic molecules, those ones that exist as two. Whenever they are alone and not bonded with anything else, we write them as two. For instance, we can have our H2, we can have our I2, we can have our Br2, we can have our Cl2. Remember that these ones, they make a 7 on your periodic table, including the hydrogen, which is found in group 1. So all of those elements, starting from iodine, going all the way up to the left of until nitrogen. So those molecules there, they are written as 2. It's that chemical symbol with the 2, because those ones, they are diatomic molecules. Remember, it's those ones plus the hydrogen that is found in group 1. Now, throughout this lesson, we're going to be using words such as alkali metals, alkali earth metals, transition metals, halogens, noble gases, prefix, and also suffix to better explain what is going to be happening throughout this lesson. We are going to be making use of this lesson and explaining them as we proceed with the lesson. So before we get started, we're going to quickly take a short break, and I'll see you just after this.